Well, we've got breaking news on the trade war front. President Trump is now threatening new tariffs as of this morning at something like 5 a.m. or something on the toilet. He decided to tweet out that there will be tariffs on Mexico starting on June 10th, which is coming up here pretty soon in the next couple weeks. The U.S. will place a 5% tariff on all Mexican goods, which will be ratcheted up as time goes on. These details haven't been ironed out exactly. I've heard some wording that would suggest that the tariff could be up to as high as 25% by October. So it would seem as though they're going to be raising it at like a 5% clip per month. Now, according to President Trump, the reasoning behind this is that the Mexicans are just letting too many illegals go through, and we can't deal with all these illegals, so he's going to put tariffs on the Mexicans until they clean up their act and start stopping the illegals from coming through. Now, logically, I don't think that this makes the most sense, since a tariff is a tax on Americans. It doesn't make much sense to me that you're going to tax Americans to own the Mexicans, because frankly, I'm not really sure how much of this tariff is really going to impact the sales of Mexican goods in the U.S. so much as it is just going to inconvenience Americans a little bit. I think that most of the burden, the economic burden of this tariff, is probably going to be bared by Americans themselves, who are just going to bite the bullet and pay higher prices. Now, with that said, Trump's gripe with the Mexicans is legitimate in my eyes, because Mexico, for as long as I can remember, it's been known that the Mexicans just sort of give anybody who's trying to pass through the country and who's coming up illegally through the southern Mexican border, they're willing to let them just sort of pass through if they say, hey, we're just on our way to America, we're not going to try and stay in Mexico, because the Mexicans have a lot of illegal immigration to deal with at their southern border, so they're very happy just sort of looking the other way at some people, so that they only have to deal with the more serious illegal immigrants who are looking to come into Mexico and stay there. So what Trump's essentially saying is that Mexico needs to clean up its act and stop everyone at its southern border, whether their final destination is Mexico or not. And I think that that is a fair request. However, taxing American consumers is no way really of achieving that, I don't think. I think that you're going to do a lot more harm to Americans than the benefit that may be gained from these tariffs in terms of leverage over the Mexican government. I mean, Mexico's kind of a basket case at the morning with the drug cartels and all that running around, and of course the drug war is a whole nother topic that I really can't get into in this video. So as you may expect, financial markets are not particularly happy with the president this morning over this series of tweets that he put out regarding Mexico. They are quite upset already about the trade war with China, which was supposed to be resolved by now in the form of a new U.S.-China trade deal. But we found out in the last couple weeks that essentially there is no trade deal coming, and it is not going to manifest. The two sides cannot reconcile their differences, and the tariffs and the trade war is going to now become the new status quo. And the markets have taken quite a hit since then. So now that Trump has announced a new front is opening up on the trade war, a North American front, well then I don't think that traders are going to be too happy about that. And I'm certain that Trump himself must have been suspecting that this would happen. And so as I speak now, I believe S&P futures are down something like 33 points. We are getting further and further from 2,800, and it looks to me, save for a real substantial algo pump at the end of the day, we may very well close quite a ways below 2,800, which I think would be considered a clear case of breaking through support. Now, given that Trump's tariff announcement here can only have negative effects for the financial markets and then by extension the economy, because of course our fake post-2008 economy is driven by the wealth effect. There are two reasons why I think that the president may have done this. One is he's trying to make the markets have a bit of a downturn, not too severe, but certainly look sluggish, so that he can goad the Fed into cutting rates. Because that's really what the president, he said, that's his goal. His goal is a 1% rate cut and a restart of quantitative easing. So I think that Trump is trying to trap the Fed into having to do that because he knows that the Fed really only cares about the stock market. That's they pretend like they care about inflation and unemployment and all this other stuff, but really they just care about the stock market. It's been that way since Greenspan. So Trump knows, hey, I want my rate cut, and I know that the Fed will cut rates if stocks go down. So here, let me just threaten these really big lumbering tariffs, which would hurt the stock market and make stocks go down for a bit. And then the Fed will then be forced to come in and cut rates to account for my tariffs. But then I can just renege on my promise of instituting those tariffs, and therefore the tariffs never happen, but I still get my rate cuts. And so I think that could be the way that Trump is thinking. The first person I heard articulate this point was Peter Schiff, so I'll give him credit. And I was skeptical at first, but I'm starting to come around to the idea because Trump's behavior just doesn't make much sense in any other context. Now, the one other thing he may be trying is along the same lines, but a little more intense. I think that Trump may realize that this business cycle is geriatric at this point and is probably unlikely that it will survive all the way to 2020. So perhaps what Trump is trying to do here is he is trying to purposefully crash the stock market, which then will crash the rest of our consumption-driven economy, which I don't believe that the economy is consumption-driven, but that's the way that we've propped up our asset bubble over the last 10 years. Trump may be trying to pop the bubble early so that perhaps we can get the recession, which is inevitable, out of the way before the 2020 election and already be in recovery mode, which Trump then can take credit for before the election. The worst case scenario for Trump is that he tries to get the market to lumber along for the next year and a half, and then we end up having a crash in the summer of 2020, and then he has to resort to more extreme means, which I've alluded to in the past, such as invading Iran to boost patriotic morale and rally people around, a war instead of the economy. Now, if Trump really does institute or induce an economic crash that is sudden and sharp this summer, well then, and we're out of it by next summer, well then that would be quite good for me overall, because not only for the president would he be able to, sort of take credit for recovery and say, oh, see, recessions happen, blah, 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 I'm doing a good job at this. But most importantly, he would have no reason to start any wars with Venezuela or Iran. In fact, he would be disincentivized because, either of those wars are going to be a terrible failure in the long run. So nobody actually wants to start them, but they do offer wars a short-term boost to approval ratings. So we'll want to keep an eye on the Fed and what they're going to do, and we'll especially want to watch stocks the next couple weeks to see if they continue to fall well below 2,800. If perhaps we go down to see another retest of the lows from earlier this year, which was around 2,350. If that happens, I'm certain that the Fed will not tolerate it, and they will definitely cut rates probably all the way back to zero. So if you got anything of value out of this video, please do click the like button and subscribe, because I do upload every day. And if you do subscribe, please do click the bell. And hopefully YouTube will let you know when I actually upload, which I do every day. So if you are at all interested in the content that I put out, maybe it would behoove you just to check the channel manually, because I know that YouTube doesn't like to put everybody's subscriptions in their feed. And also because I've noticed that the algorithm hasn't liked me the last couple months. My videos have not really been suggested at all in other videos. I would very much appreciate you actually sharing this video manually with other people who you think may enjoy the content. It's very hard to build an audience when I cover such a broad range of topics, because I get some people who might be interested in Brexit, or some people who might be interested in financial markets, or some people who might be interested in war, but it's hard to find people who are interested in all of those topics. If you made it this far, I very much appreciate your commitment, and I will probably see you back here later today with another video.